Right here, I have the PlayStation 5. It costs $500 and perhaps the easiest, most convenient, and cheapest way to play all the best looking games. The value proposition of PS5 as a gaming console just can't be matched with the traditional gaming PC. Or maybe I'm wrong and it can. Well, I want to find out what the same $500 gets me when it comes to a gaming PC. I wanted to not just build or get a gaming PC on paper, but actually do a side-by-side comparison of the performance with all the different games. Can a $500 gaming PC match the performance of a $500 PlayStation? Now, I'm the type of person that likes my money to go far, so I went online, looked at actually building a PC out from fresh parts, and quickly realized that I'm not gonna get very far with only $500. So the next thing was a pre-built. And for that, I went to the usual pre-built sites, really the biggest names in pre-built. And once again realized that brand new pre-builts are a ripoff and I'm not really gonna get anything for $500. So I turned to my local used classifieds Facebook marketplace. I was on a mission to get a good deal, but I still had to keep in mind that the deal can't be too good. After all, everyone watching should be able to go and get a similar deal easily in their local classifieds. After a bit of browsing, I at least had an idea of the specs nailed down for my price range. After contacting a few sellers, negotiating on the price, I think I found my used pre-built. I'm on my way now to go pick up this pre-built. The guy wanted $750 Canadian. I was able to bring him down to $680, which is about $500 US. So here's what I got. It's a CyberPower PC pre-built. It's got a 10th gen i5 processor with an NVIDIA GeForce GTX 1660. Now that I have my $500 gaming PC, it's time to set it up and install some games on it. Games that are essentially common to this PC as well as the PlayStation 5. So here's a list of games I'm going to compare the performance of. Spiderman Miles Morales, The Last of Us Part 1, Returnal, Star Wars Jedi Survivor, Hogwarts Legacy, and just for giggles to make some of you say, but why, I do have Fortnite on my list. Let's get started with Spider-Man Miles Morales. On the PlayStation 5, this game has 3 graphic modes. There's the 4K 30 FPS mode with ray tracing. The second mode is dynamic 4K with 60 FPS, so a higher frame rate, but there's no ray tracing. And then there's a third balance mode, which gives you 1440p at 60 FPS as well as ray tracing. In all those modes, the PS5 runs the game at a solid locked frame rate. There are no drops and the game's well optimized for the console. Comparing to my $500 PC, well, first of all, you can cross ray tracing off the list. This budget machine simply can't run ray tracing. But can I compromise? Can I run 4K without ray tracing with the graphics maxed out? So I set the resolution to 4K, graphics preset to very high, and what do you know, this budget machine can run Spider-Man Miles Morales at an average of 33 FPS. In comparison, PS5 does 4K at 30 FPS, but with ray tracing as well. I also wanted to see the highest frame rate I can reasonably run Spider-Man on this budget PC, so I turned the resolution to 1080p, turned FSR 2.1 on, set the graphics to low preset, and was getting a decent frame rate. Here it's averaging about 70 FPS at those settings. Next up is The Last of Us Part 1. On PS5, there's 2 modes for The Last of Us, resolution and frame rate. Resolution mode runs this game in native 4K and 30 FPS, while frame rate mode runs it in 1440p and 60 FPS. This is also a first-party Sony game, which means it runs really well on PlayStation 5. The frame rate is solid locked and there's essentially no performance issues. Now let's see how it runs on my budget PC compared to the PS5. Well, the results are pretty bad. See, my PC here can't run the game. Here's the error I get. You don't have enough system and video memory to start the game. I actually meet the minimum requirements with 16 gigabytes of RAM and 6 gigabytes of video memory, but I'm right at the edge there. Those are the minimums. So I guess I really need to upgrade here if I want to play this game. Moving on to Returnal. The PS5 runs this game at native 1080p, reconstructs it to 1440p. The frame rate here is 60 FPS and a pretty solid one without any performance issues. On my $500 PC, I went into the settings to match them to the PS5, and here's how the game did with the epic graphics preset and native 1080p. It seems to hover between 30 and 40 FPS when I'm just running around the map. During battles though, it does dip below 30 FPS at times, as you can see right here. Next up is Star Wars Jedi Survivor. This is a game that doesn't have perfect performance even on the PS5. PS5 has resolution mode and performance mode. Resolution mode locks the frame rate to 30 FPS with dynamic 4K resolution. The game can't hold a solid 30 FPS though, and the resolution likely never stays anywhere close to 4K. In performance mode, Star Wars targets 60 FPS on PS5 with the resolution upscaled to 1440p. The game's pretty blurry here, with native resolution running as low as 720p. Even the frame rate suffers. It can't hold a solid 60 and averages 50 FPS with a lot of screen tearing. With how bad Star Wars performs on PS5, I had low expectations for it running on this $500 PC. You can forget about the highest graphical settings, you can forget about 4K, it's just not gonna run. For it to even start up, I had to turn down the graphics all the way to the lowest preset. Everything is just turned way down. The resolution is at 1080p, FSR 2.1 is on. At these settings, well, at least it ran for a while anyways. And surprisingly, it was getting fairly close to 60 FPS, so it can work. But the experience only lasted about 1 minute before the game crashed with this out of memory error. Hogwarts Legacy is next. On PS5, it does have ray tracing, but I'm not even gonna consider that because my budget PC can't do ray tracing. Without ray tracing, PS5 offers 3 modes: quality, balanced, and performance. Quality is 1800p and 30 FPS. Balanced is dynamic 1800p and 60 FPS. And then frame rate is dynamic 1440p and 60 FPS. The performance on PS5 is decent. It's a locked frame rate for most of the game. There's only some minor drops in rare cases. On my $500 PC, I wanted to mimic the PS5 settings, so here's quality mode, which is native 1800p. The graphics are on the high preset. Here the budget PC is struggling, running the game at around 10 FPS compared to the 30 FPS the PS5 delivers. So the PS5 is a clear winner at this $500 price point. Now, if you're someone that really cares about the frame rate and doesn't mind running everything on the lowest settings, then this PC can still give you above 60 FPS. I turned on the resolution to 1080p here with FSR 2.1 on balance. The graphics are on the low preset, and you can see it's getting slightly above 60 FPS. The last game I compared is Fortnite. Fortnite on PS5 has 2 modes: 4K 60 FPS and 1440p with 120 FPS. The frame rate on PS5 is decent, it's stable, and it does stick close to the target values, except maybe when you drop in on the map where it kind of jumps all over the place. On my $500 budget PC, I first tried 4K resolution with the max settings, and the results were pretty bad. The frame rate seems to be all over the place here. I was seeing 20 FPS, 30 FPS, 40 FPS, and maybe as high as 50, but it's all over the place. So of course, as expected, the PS5 is way better in terms of performance, but let's just forget about comparing it with the PS5 settings here. And I really want to see the max and a reasonable frame rate on this $500 build. So I set the resolution to 1080p, put the graphics settings on the high preset. The resolution is dynamic, there is some scaling going on here, and with those low settings, the budget PC can deliver a decent frame rate. It stays close to 120 FPS most of the time and even gets over 130 FPS. So again, if you don't care about the best visuals on Fortnite, then a cheap PC like this one can still give you ultra high frame rate. So there you have it. This is how a $500 PlayStation 5 compares to a $500 gaming PC. The PS5 is a clear winner. I guess this just shows that PC gaming can't match the value of console gaming. I mean, console gaming is the best value proposition, especially for those that aren't that tech savvy and don't like to mess around with settings and want something that works out of the box. Now, I could have went even further and compared the $400 PS5 digital to a $400 gaming PC, but I had a hard enough time finding a decent spec PC at even $500 that can run all these games, so a budget that's a whole $100 lower would be a disaster.